This is my first day holding Sunday Seal of this program as a new spiritual director here and a lay minister in this tradition. I had thought, as the transition was coming to a close with Sakula, I had thought about, I started thinking a little bit about things that I wanted to change or do differently or institute or somehow, make some kind of transition inside. And one of the things that I had thought that I might do for the first few months, maybe a year, was just read a little bit from Ajahn Chah every Sunday. Because he's our sort of the head of our lineage, and I'm finding ways to stay anchored. And by turning on the regular to the head of our lineage and our community and the monastics for support and encouragement and accountability, I will find an easier time staying grounded. And then there was a monk that was living at the Hermitage recently. He lived there for quite a while, and he had lived there previously too. And I think we all got a bit attached to Venerable Sudiko when he was living here. Tall, thin, young, sweet, funny, just a good soul and spirit, very wise. When he was here last, he said, so when's this happening? When's it official? And I said, no, well, not till June, can you come? And he's a monk of less than 10 years, and he said, well, I don't make my own schedule. I'll be there if somebody says you can be here. Otherwise, no. And I, saw my attachment right away, and that was all right. He said, but I'm asking because I want to make you some. I want to have a gift for you, but I have to order something. And when Luang Por showed up with all the monks last weekend, he just quietly handed me this little book and said, Tansidiko made this for you. It's a gift. And of course, the monks in our tradition are alms mendicants, and so they don't have money or a lot of time that even is their own. They have time to practice. They don't get to go to the store, But he took the time to assemble this book of reflections from Ajahn Chah that are compiled from a number of sources. And I found out this was kind of cool in a way. It's also a gift from Matthew Dansky over here because he was instrumental in actually creating it originally. You can ask him about that at tea time. Ask him about that at tea time. So I was given my Ajahn Chah to share over the next year. And I think actually today I'll just start with the introduction, which is short and sweet. So it says at the very beginning, it says, once there was a layman who came to Ajahn Chah and asked him who Ajahn Chah was. Ajahn Chah, seeing that the spiritual development of the individual is not very advanced, pointed to himself and said, this is Ajahn Chah. On another occasion, someone else asked Ajahn Chah the same question. This time, however, seeing that the questioner's capacity to understand the Dhamma was higher, Ajahn Chah answered by saying, Ajahn Chah, there is no Ajahn Chah. And then the short introduction. When people would say to Ajahn Chah that they found it impossible to practice in society, he would ask them, "If I poked you in the chest with a burning stick, would you say I'm suffering? It's true, but since I live in the society, I can't get away from it?" Ajahn Chah's response makes a point not unlike the Buddhist parable of the poisoned arrow. The Buddha tells of a man who had been shot by an arrow and would not let anyone pull it out until his questions about the arrow, the bow, and the archer were all answered. The only problem was that the wounded man would probably die before he could get the replies to all of his questions. What the wounded man had to realize was that he was in pain and dying, and he should do something about that right away. Ajahn Chah emphasized this point over and over again in his teachings. You're suffering, do something about it now. He wouldn't spend much time talking about peace, wisdom, or nibbanic states, but rather the practice of constantly being aware of what was happening within the body and mind in the present moment. Learning how to simply watch and let go. Meditation, he'd say, was not getting things, but getting rid of things. Even when asked about the peace that one could attain through the practice, he would instead rather speak of the confusion that one should get rid of. For as he put it, peace is the end of confusion. This collection reflects not on suffering and meditation practice, not only on suffering and meditation practice, but also gives us some insight into impermanence, virtue, non-self, and so on. We hope that the reader will take this little book as a companion and good friend for moments of quiet reflection and perhaps get a glimpse of the no Ajahn Chah, who used to say, "I'm always talking about things to develop and things to give up, but really there's nothing to develop and nothing to give up." Over the past week, I've been asked a number of times, "So how do you feel?" How does it feel now that it's official? And I couldn't, there's really no good answer. I felt the same and I felt different. And, the best answer is ask me and, oh, I feel like that. The cover on the fluorescent light in my office this morning tried to escape. And I jumped 10 feet in the air when it fell out of the ceiling. And then somebody started screaming outside, and now we have a fire drill in the basement. So this is the way it is. And that's how I feel. But we also need to be safe. So I think I'm going to look in this direction until Evan gets back up. Yes. Okay. There's no need to sit in a burning building, guys. No. Different building. Okay. May they be safe. And so that's nothing much has changed. What's changed a little bit is that, I don't have a sort of a superior anymore. My boss is gone. She's having the time of her life in Europe right now in this tradition. In the monastic tradition, when an abbot leaves a monastery and another abbot takes over, the abbot leaves for a year. And that's to give everybody in the community the opportunity to know who really the complaints go to now, who to look toward, where the sort of who's holding that, the wisdom of the lineage. And so it's been an interesting kind of, that's what's been most interesting for me, is to, I'm hearing things in a different way, I'm seeing things in a different way, I'm smelling things in a different way, because it's my job now to decide what's next in many respects. Like, so we just had, in addition to everything else we did last weekend, there's also this little fundraiser. And we asked for, $12,000 to see if we could give some new programming a go, like a real effort, and not take on any new renters in the next year. And within a few days, we had met that goal. And we also asked for people to support the building and the maintenance of the building in any way they would like. And within a few days after that, we had another $5,000 or something. So people were incredibly generous. And then after all that, an anonymous donor, anonymous to me even, an anonymous donor offered a match of $6,000. Said, "Hey, I'd like to match any donations that come in between the day of our fundraiser, which was last Saturday, and August 31st or something like that." And I knew that was done already. We had matched it. And furthermore, we had met our goal. And so, I felt it was important to let the donor know that. Because if their goal in giving joyfully and freely was to help us meet our goal, we had done that. And if their goal, was to in giving joyfully and freely was to encourage other people to give, then they wouldn't get that opportunity because we had already met the match technically, And so I asked our treasurer to go back to the donor and tell them that. Well, actually, how wonderful, and we met your match, and we met our goal, and here are some options. You can keep it, you can donate it anyway, you could change the time period, and encourage people who haven't given yet, maybe, to match that $6,000. But it was a good feeling to know that the only way to look at it was through the lens of Dhamma and taking care of the donor. It wasn't about getting this additional money. We could use it. I mean, the cover just fell off my light this morning, and et cetera. That ceiling's falling in back there. But in this tradition, because it's all dana, it's all free will donations, then we really try hard to understand the intention of the donor and meet that intention so they can give freely and joyfully. So they decided to offer the match starting when I announce it. I guess I'm announcing it. And go through the summer to encourage, ostensibly to encourage people who haven't given yet to give. But putting that, opportunity, that decision back into the hands of the donor felt really good. It seemed right. And I'm delighted. I'm delighted with now this new opportunity for the summer, to see if people are interested to match this donation and give, probably for the good of the building and, our capital fund and things like that. But when that email came in, I sort of thought, oh, this is my job now. Like, I don't get to kick this up the up the ladder to anybody else. Of course, I reached out to the board, and the board thought it was a good route and had, a question, the same question I had: what is the intention of the donor? But honestly, and by and large, it was my job to kind of decide what the direction to go was, based on the Dhamma, based on how we hold our people who are giving. And everybody in here is giving right now, just being here, holding the space, volunteering, sitting, being an example for others. It's our job to really hold that in a precious way. So that was kind of a beautiful example of how things have changed for me a little bit. Another one is that, so I did most of Sakula, everything Sakula did, I did most of it eventually. I took things on slowly and over time, and by the time it was done, by the time the transition happened, it was done, and that was the idea. And so I'd been taking on bits and pieces of things that she did for years and years, except one thing, which is she did the podcast. We have a little podcast on our website. And I don't like to listen to myself, and apparently others either, because I never had any interest in it. I didn't want to get into it. She loved doing it. That's not true. I do like to listen to other people, but I don't like to listen to myself. And so I tried to stay as far away from the podcast as I possibly could this whole time. And then, like, about a week before she left, she showed me, and it seemed so easy. I didn't write anything down, It only took 4 different programs, 2 computers, and a partridge in a pear tree, and I thought I had it. And then the first thing I was tasked with was getting this Saturday, this 5-hour event on the podcast. And I couldn't. It was, there was just a whole range of comedic errors. The first of which, I didn't have one of the programs on my computer that I needed and couldn't get it on there, and so on and so forth. I'll save the details, but that's what I did the first week after officially taking on this role, was stress about a podcast for 3 days, because in my head I could hear Sakula's voice. Well, you got to get it up. It's cool if you're watching this. People are waiting. This is really important. The monks came all the way here. I taught you. But it just wasn't going to work for various reasons. And it may still, but it will take hours of time to make it work. I did get it on YouTube. And, finally, I had to relax a little bit. Okay, I'm trying. This is new. It's not really working. Is there a problem? And I went back to how I decide whether something is a problem, whether I've made a problem or someone else has made a problem. And it starts with the 5 precepts. Have I killed anything or anybody? No. Have I stolen anything or taken something that wasn't mine? No. Have I, cheated on my spouse or in other words, treated my romantic relationship poorly? No. Have I lied? No. Have I taken intoxicants? No. Although after about 15 hours of working on this podcast, everything started to look like it would be a better time than working on it. But I have, because of having this accountability and this framework and this training, I have a way to look at problems that put them in perspective. So I haven't broken any precepts. And then, beyond that, have I been less mindful than I could have been? Well, yeah, I should have done it the way I was supposed to do it from the get-go. But I didn't know. Big file, weird programs, Chromebook. It was just a mess, And so then I could start to see, I can let this go. Not getting the job done, not getting the task done. I couldn't let that go because the task needs to happen. I made a commitment to the task. But what I could let go was this kind of tightening around it. I got to do it because somebody said that, and I made a commitment and I said that I would and they would do it if they were here. And all of that is the second arrow, it's the I making and mine making that Ajahn Chah is talking about here. Who am I? Who am I? I'm a constellation of elements that are in process. And so we can't really make too much of that without making ourselves miserable. And so it's holding this, the important and conventional things that we have to do and get done because we made a commitment, or it's our job, or we depend on it, or it's our livelihood. But then looking at how we insert ourselves in our opinions and our stress and anxiety, and starting to look and see, how can I actually do the thing, even if it takes a long time, and I did it wrong to begin with, can I just move forward and do the thing without adding anything to it, any mental and emotional difficulties to it. So they're just small things. So far, all small things. But, it's my belief that practicing with the small things all the time helps us approach the big difficulties when they come around, because it's the same formula. How can I do what I need to do without adding myself to it? Without adding my anxiety, without adding my anger, without adding my sadness, without adding my frustration? How can I take myself out? Ajahn Chah, there's this little famous story about Ajahn Chah and Ajahn Sumedho, and Ajahn Chah came up to Ajahn Sumedho, who's his senior Western disciple, and said, Ajahn Sumedho, you must be really confused. Yeah, about what? The Dhamma is all about letting go. So letting go. And the Vinaya, which is the monks' rules and the way that they have to live in this framework, is all about holding on. It must be really confusing. And Ajahn Sumedho said, yeah, it is. Ostensibly waiting for the Dhamma talk, the answer. And Ajahn Chah said, Yeah, and when you figure that out, something like, you'll be in good shape. You'll be happy. You'll know. And so that is, at the moment, how I'm proceeding. When I figure it out, then I'll know. And that's just about the same as last week and the week before that, and the time since I came to the Dhamma. It's been a little bit like that. So thank you. I'll leave it there. Thank you for your kind attention. Are there any questions or comments or stories, reflections? Love to hear them.